The checkered flag fell on a thrilling Monaco Grand Prix a mere few days ago. And already Formula One is in Barcelona, primed for another race weekend, where upgrades and a new track layout will make headlines. A circuit our teams and drivers know all too well. Welcome to the Spanish Grand Prix weekend warm-up. What a joy that introduction was. Welcome to the Spanish Grand Prix paddock here at Circuit Barcelona-Catalunya. Welcome to Will Buxton, who is very much enjoying the Spanish vibes.
I have maracas.
You do have maracas, you do.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's lovely to be here. It feels like the start of one of those shows where they relocate you to a new country. Will they choose the rundown apartment next to the abattoir, just across the road from the circuit? Perhaps it will be the dank flat in the industrial estate. Or will it be the house they can't afford, the 2 million pied-à-terre on the coast, glass frontage, 2 million euros that they absolutely can't afford. And we'll spend the rest of the episode being incredibly depressed and then choose none.
Are you done?
Pretty much.
Okay, fantastic. Welcome to Spain. And while the sun is shining right now, I think it's fair to say weather is mixed. We had a fair bit of rain overnight coming into this morning. It was quite damp and cloudy. I'm seeing sort of spatters of rain forecast throughout the days. We could be in for another wet weekend.
Yeah, and it's changing all the way through. When we arrived here, it looked like Friday, Saturday was going to be fairly dry. Sunday, mixed weather, possibly raining around about the start of the race. But it changes all the time here. So let's wait and see. But it doesn't look like we're going to escape this weekend without a little bit of rain falling on at least one of the 3 days.
Oh, it could be exciting, couldn't it? And the rain certainly spiced things up. Last time out in Monaco,
it did.
Will Buxton, we don't have Lawrence Beretta with
No.
us. He's got a weekend off, which we'll grant him. That's fine. I believe he's
allowed.
working
He works
in the
hard.
office. He does work very hard. We'll allow it. We're missing his shoes and his burger connoisseur.
His sparkling personality more than anything.
Absolutely. We're missing you, Lawrence. Not here this weekend. So you are tasked with the 60-second recap.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Here we go.
Right, so yeah, Verstappen on pole from Alonso and Ocon. Rain forecast to arrive at some point during the Grand Prix. They went in as they had qualified into turn one. Piastri with some great moves in the early laps. Perez, who qualified 20th and last, trying to make his way through. And then finally, they kind of all settled into the order that had basically been on the grid, right up until the rain started to fall about laps 52, 53. Alonso came in on 55, moved from the hards onto the mediums. It was the wrong tyre to take on because the rain increased in intensity, and he had to stop again for a set of intermediates. Everybody now on intermediates. Verstappen essentially with a free pit stop retook the lead. Alonso then came home behind him, and Ocon, a famous and really wonderful for him podium in the Alpine. And yeah, everybody just basically trying to keep the car on track in really sketchy conditions. The podium was the same top three as it had been on the grid, but that doesn't tell the full story of the Grand Prix. So yeah, then the top three, then the two Mercedes drivers, then it was Leclerc, then it was Gasly, then it was Sainz, then it was the two McLarens.
Absolutely. Very good, Will. Really good. I love that you didn't take a single look at the return monitor. You didn't even bother with the lovely, well-constructed edit we've got. You had your own race report ready to go. I'm impressed.
Going old school, mate. Trying to remember it.
Yeah, I love it. Hashtag F1 Live, wherever you are watching. Send in your comments and questions ahead of this weekend, the Spanish Grand Prix, where, of course, we will begin to see upgrades. Yes, teams brought them to Monaco, of course, without the running of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix a weekend before, but we were unable to really see the true extent of those upgrades. Here, we feel teams will really stretch their legs, Will.
Yeah, and there's another couple of upgrades that some of the teams have bought on, in addition to what we saw in Monaco. But Mercedes obviously was the one that everybody was focused on. It's been such a difficult car for them. That first major upgrade package for that car, taking it away from the zero-pod concept that we'd seen from its inception over a year ago. But I think for everybody, the big point of interest was that front suspension. The car certainly looked more pointy, more dialed in on turn into the corners as a result of that. But we will only, as you say, really know what they've got, and they will only really know what they've got from that, as will everybody around this more representative circuit, a circuit where drivers and teams have logged tens of thousands of laps over the course of their history. So a lot of knowledge about this circuit, but it has changed.
Yes, exactly. And I think speaking to many drivers today in the media pen, you'll have had similar responses. They are expecting those changes to the track layout here, the removal of the final chicane before the penultimate corner, ultimately making it a hell of a lot faster to have some real issues for front wear tyre, certainly front tyre wear, certainly front left, and indeed their necks as well. Physically, and indeed the demands on the car, it's going to be quite an interesting one, this.
See, I remember the days when that was what the track was actually like. When I first started coming here, there was no chicane there. It was just, through that final complex into a flat, if you dared, double right-hander back onto the start-finish straight. Now, obviously, they haven't been able to do too much with the barriers on the exit of that corner. You have the grandstand where it is, so you can't move the gravel trap further down the circuit. They have put another Tech Pro barrier on the outer sort of perimeter of the gravel trap around those final two corners, so that if anybody does get it wrong, and they will go off there at high speed, then there is that extra layer of protection should they do so. I was talking to Niels Wittig, the race director, this morning, and he confirmed that that's what they've done down there.
It's going to be a pretty daring turn, I think. We're quite excited to see them taking it a full tilt.
I used to love it. Honestly, I used to love it. I don't know what it's going to do to increase or otherwise overtaking, but it's such a massive challenge, and it will hammer the tyres. It will hammer their necks. And it's going to be wonderful. I was talking to Nico Hülkenberg earlier, and I was like, flat? And he said, not on the first lap, maybe the second, but they're going to have to keep pushing to figure out just how fast they can take that final corner, whether they can do it flat out, because it's going to be a massive challenge and something we haven't seen in, goodness, nearly 2 decades, I think.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Thank you very much, Will. Well, P4 and P5 is what Mercedes scored in Monaco, a track Lewis Hamilton absolutely loved, but now we're here in Spain, a track he knows how to win on as well. Let's hear from him now. Lewis, P4 in Monaco. I know you loved driving there. How much do you feel the car moved forwards last weekend?
It's difficult to say. Obviously, it's such a different track to what we were racing on before, but it was definitely great to get a decent result. I think just overall as a team, I think we performed really, really well as a whole to be able to get the result we got. We outsmarted and outwitted a few of the people that we were racing against.
And here, we're hopefully going to be able to see the true pace, the true performance of the upgrades on this car on a track which will, obviously you have so much data on already, but equally one that's changed just ever so slightly. What are the expectations coming into this weekend?
It's going to be fast. I'm hoping the car is in the sweetest spot. There's only like medium, and there's not really many slow speed corners here, so it'll be a real good test of the efficiency of our car, and I think it's going to be a lot of degradation here because it's going to be such high speed, but should be fun. And then with the weather, though, the weather's going to play a big part.
Thank you very much. Yeah, always a Brit looking out for the weather, as we were at the top of the show. It is sunny, it is relatively warm right now, but as we said earlier, we are expecting a bit of inclement weather, and so a Mercedes, it seems, as well, and how things could just spice up the race weekend for them, and indeed whether these upgrades will see a jump in performance for the Silver Arrows. Indeed, to try and close the gap to Red Bull behind us here. They are stretching their lead both in the driver and the constructor standings as well. Verstappen now with a 39-point lead over Sergio Perez, and we have to take a moment for the performance we saw from Max Verstappen last weekend. Yes, he was on pole and won from pole in Monaco, which on paper, as you said earlier, is to be expected. That podium as the grid doesn't tell half the story. 56 laps on worn mediums. He had no right doing that, did he?
It was a ridiculous drive, and we saw it in Miami, we saw it again in Monaco. Verstappen just keeps adding these extra layers to the completeness that he has as a driver, and the tyre whispering ability has become one of these things now. He can look after his tyres quite magnificently and still keep pumping in the fastest lap times of the race. He was never in danger in Monaco. He just looked so serene on those tyres, and Aston assumed that they were just going to, Red Bull were going to have to come in, before the rain came. There was no way he was going to keep those tyres on his car. And yet he did. It was a masterful display, and ultimately brought him that victory in the Principality. I think astonishing drive from him. And he's admitted today he thinks the team can win every Grand Prix this year. He doesn't think they're going to, but he believes that they can.
Oh my goodness me! The rest of the paddock there probably just groaning.
But it's never been done. In the whole of Formula One history, it's never been done. I look back to 2016 with Mercedes. and they were looking to get that done. And then, of course, contact here between Rosberg and Hamilton, and that perfect season suddenly came undone. They were in a very similar position to where Red Bull find themselves right now. Absolutely dominant, tearing away. Their two drivers leading the championship, and then they came together, and who came through for the win? A young Max Verstappen in his first race for Red Bull Racing.
There you go. We hope you haven't jinxed it for a Max Checo collision.
And a Fernando win?
I know what you're hoping for this weekend.
I think I'd be given the freedom of Barcelona if that happened.
Well, Sergio Perez with a weekend to forget. A crash in qualifying saw him start P20, and he could only make up a few places. Will Buxton spoke to him in the pen earlier.
Hello, Checo. How are you?
Good, you?
Good. Shall we just forget Monaco?
What happened in Monaco?
I can't remember, mate.
I wasn't there.
Arguably. It was a difficult weekend, I know, mate, for you. Does that actually ease things a little bit? Does it actually remove some of the pressure, given that gap is eked out a little bit, that you can just focus on it without people talking about the championship?
No, not really. I mean, I just want to maximize my weekends, not thinking too much about the championship. It's all about maximizing weekend after weekend, get the maximum positions I possibly can, and then go from there, really, because anything can still happen. We have so many races ahead that, it can turn around fairly quickly. The speed is there, which is the most positive, and we just have to go from there.
This is the thing, the car has such phenomenal pace right now. What can you do differently? I don't want to look at Monaco because that was a very odd weekend with everything that happened in qualifying, and just such a unique nature of that. But on a normal track, on a normal weekend, where do you see inside yourself those little elements that you can shift?
Yeah, I think just making sure we qualify well, making sure we are racing well, not making mistakes, and bringing, when we have a bad day, make sure that we get as many points as possible. That will be the key. We cannot afford any more zeros in the championship.
And the rest of the paddock will be worried about what upgrades this team can possibly bring to put on this already phenomenal car. How hopeful are you, from what you know of what's being brought to the car, of how far it could take you ahead?
Well, I think everyone is just closing up the gap. We are not really bringing big upgrades anymore. So I do expect people to get closer every single weekend.
Thanks, Checo.
All going so well for Red Bull so far this season, but news breaking this week that they have lost one of their key personnel, Will. Rob Marshall, Chief Engineering Officer, has moved to McLaren. We're starting on 1st January next year.
It's a very, very interesting one. Reportedly in charge of the 2026 car for them, overseeing the design. Now, we know Adrian Newey obviously has reconfirmed that he will be staying at the team for a long time, and Rob is one of those people that really kind of kept Adrian pointing in the right direction, part of a brilliant design team there. To lose him to McLaren shows a massive sign of intent from McLaren. Does it ask questions about whether Rob was fully confident in Red Bull creating their own powertrain for 26 and beyond? I don't know. Or did McLaren just present a new opportunity for him? Certainly, it's a clear sign of intent from McLaren. They're making some amazing signings from Ferrari, from Red Bull. They are, wanting to come out swinging from 25 and 24, 25, 26. Huge and massively unexpected.
Yeah, we'll find out some of those answers, I think, this week in speaking to some of those key personnel. Now, Fernando Alonso, we're here in Spain. The Fernando effect for Aston Martin is in full force. Fernando fever, I'm going to call it, here in Spain. We are going to see a hell of a lot of it this weekend. And our social media gal on the ground here, Geordie Gray, has been hitting up some stats, as has producer Joe. So just prepare yourselves.
These are good.
This is the 33rd running of the Spanish Grand Prix here at this circuit. Of course, Fernando Alonso is searching for his 33rd win. He is in garage number 33. Ooh. He has pit box number, therefore, 33. Ooh. This is also his 33rd helmet design. And this is the best one yet. I'm going to have to look down for this. I'm going to have to read these ones out. This is from Joe. Credit to producer Joe. This is the 1086th World Championship event. If Fernando Alonso races here, it will be his 362nd start. which equals 33%, 1/3 exactly of all World Championship races.
I think it's actually 33.333 recurring, because it's exactly a
Fernando
third.
and I will take it, all right?
That's incredible.
But the stars are aligning, are they not, for his 33rd win? But when does Formula One follow a script? When does Formula One follow the stars? Is it possible? Well, you've been gunning for a win for Fernando since the very beginning of this season. Can he do it here in Spain 10 years on from his last?
Of course he can.
Will he?
Of course he can. That'll be harder. You know, look, those Red Bulls are so ultimately dominant, but it's a Grand Prix. You never know what's going to happen. Someone's engine can go. The two can take each other out. There might be a pit stop issue. They might, have an issue in qualifying like Checo did. You can't ever look on a Thursday and say this is definitively what the answer will be and the result will be on a Sunday. It's impossible. Anything can happen over the course of the weekend. So of course he can do it. Whether he will or not is another question entirely. But yeah, he can. Of course he can. And he's racing arguably better than he ever has. There's so much capability within that head to be one step ahead, to be constantly thinking of race strategy while he's racing. And you see the spring in his step. Yeah. There's such a pep to the guy right now. He's like he was when he was in his 20s still, over at Renault. There's no difference to the guy. He's still as hungry. It's wonderful to see.
Yeah, it's amazing to see. And of course, a P2 in Monaco, their best result so far this season on Fernando's side of the garage. A little question of what might have been. And Will, you spoke to him earlier on in the paddock.
Is Christian Horner right? Did you let them off the hook in Monaco?
I don't know. I think if we had the crystal ball and we know everything, maybe you do things differently, but I think we had a free stop at that time, so we could stop for dries and see how the situation was, and then eventually if it rains heavier, stop for inters, and it's what we did. So we are P2 in Monaco, so it is a little bit amazing that we're still talking that we did something maybe potentially wrong, and if we had to stop for inters, we will talk that Red Bull stopped one lap too late for inters or something like that. So there is always this, search for perfection, for each team that is sometimes difficult to get when conditions are so changeable.
It's been some time since you've gone into race weekends looking at podiums, not as a distant possibility, but as a realistic chance. How much have you had to tweak that mindset coming into this year to be ready to pounce on those opportunities?
Not much. No, not much. I didn't change anything. I was always, going into the race with fighting for whatever position with the mentality of getting the maximum from the car. Sometimes it's P7, sometimes it's a podium possibility. I know that in Formula One has been a few years already since Ferrari times, but the endurance, I was going into every race winning the race of the World Championship, so it's not that long ago.
That was more of a given, though, in those days. This weekend, to be here in front of your home fans, knowing you have a car to take you to a podium and maybe to the top step, how does it feel to come here?
It feels good. Obviously, there is a special energy every time in Spain when I come here and I see all the fans. I don't think realistically we can fight for the victory. Let's be clear. Red Bull has been very dominant all season long, so I don't see any reason why in Barcelona they should not, aim for 1-2. But let's see what we can do. A few updates for everybody, especially for Ferrari, Mercedes in Monaco. So let's see.
Gracias. Good luck.
A punchy opening question there, Will Buxton, to Fernando Alonso. But look, one that you have to ask, and indeed it has been the question on many fans' lips this week as we see Ferrari heading out onto track. Carlos Sainz.
Nice hat.
Great bucket hat. Enjoy out for a track ride, just to get their bearings on, of course, a circuit they know so well, but a circuit with a revision to the end. We'll come on to Ferrari in just a moment. But look, we're talking about Fernando Alonso and indeed the success that he's had so far this season. 5 podiums from 6 races, 92 points, 93 points. Lance Stroll has a third of that. When do we begin to ask the questions about his performance? We know he came in, against the odds with 2 broken wrists and battled to get back into the seat to actually race. But we are seeing success on one side of the garage, perhaps less so on the other.
Yeah, and it's weird because every time we've had Lance on the show this year, it's been a very different Lance to the Lance we're used to. He's He's had this freedom. He's been lighter. He's been having fun. He seems to be really enjoying himself this year. And there's maybe something in Fernando that's allowed that side of him to come back out again, because he was always like that when he first started out in Formula One and seemed to just get really ground down by it over recent years. So it's lovely to see that. But that car is the second best car in Formula One. And the points in the Constructors' Championship do not reflect how far that car should be ahead of the likes of Mercedes and Ferrari. I don't think it matters whether we question it. It's whether Lawrence Stroll questions it. And is he ever going to question it? It's his son. I don't think he is. Maybe the board starts to question it, and then pressure starts getting applied. But is Lawrence Stroll going to let Lance Stroll go? Not in a million years. Like, I can't see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course the question's being asked and would be asked. You know, what would Lance Stroll be doing? Not Lance Stroll. He is Lance Stroll. What would a Lando Norris be doing? What would an Alex Albon be doing? Or, you know, a George Russell or someone? Is that harsh? When you compare the points of the two, possibly not. But there is a good racer in Lance Stroll.
For sure.
And once he finds that, and I hope he does, because we know there's a good racer in there. But once he finds that, you know, he just needs to start bringing the results home. But I think we're a long way from Aston Martin questioning whether or not they continue with Lance Stroll.
For sure. We'll keep the silly season driver market chat until at least...
It's only June.
Just before the summer break. It is June now.
It's literally just June.
Just 1 point separates Mercedes and Aston Martin, which, as we'll say, pretty amazing considering their results and their form so far this season. We move on to Ferrari. We just saw Carlos Sainz coming past there. And it was a difficult weekend for them in Monaco, but they have upgrades. It's obviously Carlos Sainz's home race. Plenty to be positive about this weekend.
Carlos was frustrated in Monaco for a number of reasons. Number one, he was the driver that had the advantage going into qualifying, but caught the track at the wrong moment, didn't get the most out of qualifying, was going to start behind Charles Leclerc until Charles' penalty for holding up Lando Norris in qualifying. Frustrated with himself, ultimately frustrated with the team and their strategy calls, looking to defend from Lewis rather than fight Esteban Ocon for the podium. But he does say, and I spoke to him today, that, you know, the team is moving forward. You know, the issues that we saw last year and the issues that we're seeing this year, they're not as bad this year as they were last year. He just says that because it's Ferrari, everybody just dials into it and nitpicks, and it gets elevated and turned into something that ultimately it's not. But that frustration was very clear in his voice during that Grand Prix. And that's the second Monaco Grand Prix in a row where he's been annoyed with the strategy calls that the team has made. So, yeah, a little bit of frustration there. They do have upgrades this weekend. I'm not sure if they're going to run them on both cars in FP1. I think Carlos will be running the new side pods, which are kind of Red Bull influenced. Mm-hmm. And maybe Charles won't, because last time I was in the pit lane, the new side pods hadn't been put on Charles's car. But we'll have to see. I mean, you know, a lot can change overnight. We'll see in the morning. But maybe they're just going to run a comparison between the two cars and see what's what.
Yeah, we shall see what is in store for Ferrari this weekend. McLaren next up, both in the points. Last time out in Monaco with some brilliant overtaking, daring moves in the wet.
Piastri.
Fernando Norris and Oscar Piastri as well.
On lap one.
I know.
On the run up the hill.
Yeah, stunning.
He said, because he came on the post-race show and he didn't talk about it, and I spoke to him today and he said, I completely forgot I did that. Completely forgot.
Amazing what adrenaline does for you.
Brilliant drive. Yeah, amazing.
But as we say, McLaren strengthened by the news of Rob Marshall joining as of next year, and we've covered the fact that they are looking ahead long term and planning for that 2026 era of Formula One cars. But right now, we obviously have to talk about how McLaren are going to go here in Spain.
Who knows? Their season's been so up and down. You know, they find themselves obviously beneath Alpine, Mercedes, Ferrari, Aston Martin, and Red Bull Racing. When Alex Albon is firing that Williams up into the top 10, it's very, very difficult for McLaren to get one, sometimes even both cars into that top 10, and then, they are doing. So it's just such a heavily condensed and compacted midfield this season that it's very difficult to know one race or the other where they'll be. McLaren are bringing major upgrades to this car at some point this year. They've said, and we understand, it will be a visibly different looking car from the one that they have at the moment, you know, similar to that kind of upgrade that we saw on the Mercedes with the difference of the side pods. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what they bring and exactly what that will do for their chances. But, you know, we know that at the moment it's just damage limitation for them.
Yeah, it is to an extent, but look, every point they can get, be it P9, P10, will be something, and will hopefully begin to pave the way as they hope to improve.
Yep.
And keep kicking on for this season. We'll move on to Alfa Romeo next up. Valtteri Bottas, P11 for him, just outside the points and on a track that, you know, very difficult to overtake on, such as Monaco.
Yeah.
What for them here? Upgrades,
Well,
they've got to start kicking in, haven't they? Got
You
to see
spoke
performance.
to the boys from Alpha today. What did they tell you?
I spoke to Valtteri Bottas,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think there was some optimism. He sort of said, you know, we know P11 is not the position anyone wants to be in. You're just outside the points. Not ideal, but they are certainly looking at the upgrades here and what that performance what performance they may get out of the car on a track like this. And indeed, as I say, most saying about the circuit as well, the speed of the circuit, with that chicane removed at the end.
Yeah.
They're all really looking forward to that. Valtteri himself saying it.
It's all kind of like medium high-speed corners around here. There's
Yeah, and they're
nothing
good at
too
that.
slow. So, and this is the test track, ultimately. You know, as we said at the top, they have spent thousands and thousands, and seemingly thousands of days here over the years just grinding around this circuit. They know it inside out. They've got reams of data about the place. So they'll be able to see pretty quickly whether the upgrades are doing what they want it to around here. And the drivers know the feel of this place. They know what they want out of a car around this place. So they'll know very, very fast if they can have it, if they can dial the car in to give them what they want.
Yeah, it's amazing actually. Of the races so far we've had, for some of the rookies on the grid, Sargent and De Vries, they've had tracks they don't know. We're now at a track that the drivers know every single inch of. This tarmac, you know.
And that's huge particularly for the rookies. You know, they had Bahrain that they all knew, so Piastri knew it, De Vries knew it, you know, Sargent knew it, having run it in Formula 2. Then you go through these not just of circuits they haven't raced on, but street circuits.
Yes.
High-speed street
Super tough.
circuits. No chance to make a mistake. You're straight in the barrier. And we saw them struggle. You know, they did struggle on those. And then we got to Monaco, and you'd think, oh, it's another street circuit. And yet they've spent their entire lives through the junior formulas racing around those streets. And immediately you get a Nick De Vries, 0.05 of a second off reaching Q3. You had a great run from Oscar Piastri, overtaking people, you know, on lap 1, then around the outside of turn 1 in the wet. Beautiful stuff from him. You know, and Logan, tough weekend for him, but it's coming in drips and drabs. And so when we get to this place that they've run a million times, from Formula Renault to Formula 3 to Formula 2, all the way through, like, they know this place. They've got nowhere to hide around here.
Well, it was a great weekend, as you say, for Nick De Vries, his first Q3, his best qualifying of the season. Yuki Tsunoda's first Q3 in Monaco. So Nick De Vries responding to those calls from Helmut Marko to step up and get to the level that we're seeing from Yuki Tsunoda weekend in, weekend out, but a trickier one for the Japanese driver. Let's hear it from Yuki now.
This car, when you talk to people in the paddock, the expectation is never that it will be in the top 10 by rights as to its natural speed. How are you able to draw something out of it that is taking it into the points, into the top 10, or on the verge of the top 10 every weekend?
Actually, just that kind of midfield is really tight at the same time, so that helps a lot to motivate myself to, you know, make sure I put at least all together, and to extract the performance from the car as much as possible, and see how the position see. But I just, you know, I've been 3 years with AlphaTauri. I understand I have good relationship with engineers. You know, we're facing the same direction all the week. Even we had a bad start in FP1, FP2. We tried to make it work in overnight and try to make a better car. Just like, you know, just pretty much sometimes you have to really sense it. You know, even actually you never actually carry entry into the speed, into the corner like this much speed, but you know you have to, because anyway you know that it's gonna be hard to be in Q2, but anyway you have to, because you know, like, see how it goes. Sometimes you have to be in gamble, because like you just have to really put it all together, and like you have to kind of push more than limit probably. So, but so far it's working well, and happy with the team. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Finally, we know that this is the point of the season where the upgrades traditionally start to come quite quickly. How hopeful are you of a step that will make that difference in that very tight midfield?
Yeah, it's interesting to see how the updates works. Monaco was not really representative track to see the exact upgrades performance, and I think here is a good place to see that. Hopefully we had a massive step, but at the same time, even it's not, just try to learn from the car as much as possible, and I do exactly the same as usual. And for me, and for the team, just try to give the good feedback as much as possible.
Great to hear from Yuki. Absolute fever here. Not only do we have Esteban Ocon, but Neymar is just
You
walking
can come into the
through
show
the
if
paddock
you
on
want.
a Thursday.
Come on
Bring
in.
in Neymar.
All good?
It's great to see you, man.
Hello.
He
Hi.
did a
Good to
great
see
job
you.
last time, didn't he?
Of course.
Oh, there you go. That all happened very quickly as we were listening to Yuki. Esteban Ocon.
Pretty crazy on the
welcome.
first day to meet Neymar, but he was in
Right.
Monaco. I met him,
Yeah.
2 times in 2 weeks. Crazy.
That's mad.
He's loving Formula One.
Clearly a good luck charm.
Yeah. Hopefully that's gonna wish me luck again.
Amazing run, man, in Monaco.
Thank you very
I want
much.
to rewind
Thank
it to
you.
Saturday. Where did that lap come from?
Through a lot of risk taking, and a lot of preparation, I guess. It felt great, the whole way through the weekend, and I thought at one point, okay, I'm gonna give it 200%. Take all the risks that I need to take, and I did have quite a few goes at the walls. I think I hit like 4.5 G at once, but I gained a tenth, with that. And the car, stayed in one piece, and I was on pole for a few seconds.
Has
so.
a history of doing that, doesn't it? Think back to Austin and Fernando putting it in the wall last year, and it still held itself together.
It's a very solid
bulletproof,
car.
isn't
It is a very solid car. Yeah, we can go to war with it.
Esteban, and then let's take it to Sunday and the race. And we were saying, all right, it's the grid that's ended up on the podium, but that doesn't tell half the story. The defensive driving masterclass we saw from you, first from Carlos Sainz. You even got a little tap from behind from him. Then Lewis Hamilton as well. It just took all your might to make sure it was you on that step of the podium.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't straightforward at all. I mean, so many things happened, from the start, which was quite close with Fernando in the beginning. But then, Carlos was putting a lot of pressure. We did have contact at the exit of the tunnel. I did, almost had a puncture, and the floor was quite well broken. So I had a lot of damage, from that. And then we had fights because it started to rain, so we were very close side by side. So he was putting a lot of pressure. And then once I boxed, I didn't know, but George was in front. And George on the outlap just missed the braking point and went in the turning around, point at turn 5. So. So many things could have gone wrong, but we had good fights with Carlos, good fights with Lewis at the end, and nothing comes easy, but that one, definitely feels good.
Growing up as a kid, obviously your home Grand Prix is the one you want to get on the podium for. This is about as close to a home Grand Prix as you've got this year, but the Monaco Grand Prix is something special.
It's so special.
To stand on that podium in that very special place, what did that feel like?
It was incredible. Coming out of the car, just parking there in the straight, and you know what? I'm not gonna say, I felt it before the weekend, but I had so much support from everyone, telling me we want to see you on the podium. All my French supporters, many of my friends, they never really tell me that, but they say, we think it's gonna be a good weekend for you. And I was looking at that Porsche race and seeing the guys on the podium, and I was thinking, it would be nice for me to have a look at that podium because it looks good, and I went up there and got my trophy, so there we go.
Fantastic.
And what about this weekend coming in? How much does that Monaco result signify a step forward for Alpine? How much can you really stretch your legs here?
Yes, so it's going to be a very good test. I think this weekend definitely important to see where we are exactly. If the upgrades have worked so well that now we are closer to a top 5, or not, or if we are still in the borderline of being in the points or not. So fit to the ground, waiting to see where we are exactly. But definitely we want to have a double points finish this weekend.
Love that. Great run. You're going to join us on the post-race show after the Grand Prix on Sunday?
Definitely. Let's do that.
Thank you. There we go. Lock that one in. Job done. Perfect stuff. Did a wonderful job, man. Super proud of you and really happy for you, mate. It was a great drive.
Thank
great
you.
Drive.
It's been
Well
awesome.
done.
Thank you.
No worries.
Merci, petit gars.
Oh,
C'est gentil.
There you go. That's cute.
oh, that's so cute. That's so cute. Can we see this? Oh, I love that.
That is mega. Brilliant.
Thank you. Merci.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Merci.
Appreciate it,
Esteban.
dude.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very
See you
much.
later.
See you later.
Bye, mate.
Bye. Oh, we're going that. Okay, that was close. Almost a lettuce. Oh my goodness. Right. Good to hear from
what?
Esteban. A lettuce. So when you accidentally, I don't know why I'm doing this. When you fist bump and I go for like it's a lettuce.
That's a letter. I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah. Anyway, Haas, you
Yes.
spoke to Nico Hülkenberg a bit earlier on.
Yeah.
It was a horrible weekend for them in Monaco, wasn't it? Q1, exits for both. And I guess they're hoping that nightmare is just a track-specific Monaco nightmare and they're not going to have any hangover here.
They were expecting so much on Friday when I spoke to them. They were actually hopeful of a Q3. But they just got the timing so poorly done in Q1 that they found themselves, again, wrong part of the track, wrong time, didn't get it together out in Q1. And from that point in Monaco, it's damage limitation, you know, short of a 1996 style race in which 4 or 5 drivers actually finish. The chances of something mega, it's Gunther being
Sorry,
silly
Gunther's
again.
being silly.
You're not going to get anything out of the weekend. So it was a tough one for them, but I don't think that's representative of where they are or where they think they are. They believe that on their day they have a car that can fight up into the top 10. And as Kevin was saying, I spoke to him earlier today, you know, you look at Miami, great qualifying from them, and they got points on merit. It wasn't
For sure.
because, you know, somebody had a big accident or there were a couple of safety cars or loads of people retired. Like, they qualified brilliantly. They raced really well and they got those points. Okay, not as many points as they wanted, but they still scored points on merit. And that's what they're hoping for from this weekend and for the next few races, is to be there for real and not because they've been elevated through something else.
Good stuff. Last but by no means least, Williams. Logan Sargent, Alex Albon. I spoke to Alex earlier on in the pen. And I find when I speak to Alex, I'm not going to say pessimistic, I'm going to say realistic, or perhaps just playing his cards very close to his chest. But if you speak to him, it's almost as if every track doesn't suit the car. He said, you know, Monaco we didn't think would suit us, and we come to a track now which you know probably doesn't suit us. And
He was top 10 all weekend in Monaco until quali.
Yeah, he's so realistic about where the car is. He plays it down, he plays his hopes down, but he's getting something out of that Williams. And we're still in a position though, kind of 6 races in, where we're saying that 2 points for them is not a fair reflection of where they are at all.
No, or the performances that Alex is putting in. You know, and we've said this since the start of the season, post-testing, they recognised 10th fastest team in the sport, or, you know, the slowest team in the sport. And what Alex has been able to pull out of that car is nothing short of mesmerising. It's been incredible to see what he's been able to do with it. You know, is that legitimately the slowest car on the grid? I don't think on a lot of occasions it has been. I think the AlphaTauri's been a little bit slower and Yuki's just been able to pull some magic out of it. But you're right, those few points for them are not a fair reward for some of the performances that Alex has put in. Logan, I think, will get it all together. He just needs a bit more experience and a bit more time, but he's getting there.
Well, on that note, Will, should we wrap the show? It's been
Let's do
quite the
that.
show. We've had some brilliant guests, Neymar and Esteban Ocon, gate crashing, both
Was
at the
not
same
expecting
point.
Neymar.
No, that was great, wasn't
We've
it?
had Maracas, we've had Neymar, we've had Esteban Ocon, and all of the other interviewees through the show today.
Yeah, great stuff. Well, a prediction then, please. I know you said it's only Thursday and we can't possibly predict, but I'm going to ask you to do just that because that's what this show is all about, Will.
In a complete replay of 2016, the dominant team of the opening races of the 2023 Formula One World Championship will start the Spanish Grand Prix from the front row of the grid, and battling through the exit of turn 3, they will come together as Spain goes mad for a Fernando Alonso victory here at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya.
No. Really?
I don't know.
But Fernando Alonso, is that your prediction for the win?
Fernando win, Carlos P2, and a Sergio Perez P3 for an all-Spanish-speaking podium that will delight the local fans.
Great
What's your
stuff.
prediction?
I am also predicting a Fernando Alonso win. Who am I to go against the 33rd win, the script that has been written by the stars here aligning?
Absolutely.
It would be special, and I like a bit of romance. What can I say?
Have we jinxed it?
Oh, without doubt, without doubt. Let's take a look at the schedule for the Spanish Grand Prix this weekend. And at 1:15, we will be building up to free practice 1, and then straight afterwards, analysing what we've just seen. 4:45, we'll be building up to free practice 2, and we have guests galore this weekend as well, so do tune in. And again, recapping straight after practice. 12:15, we'll be building up to free practice 3 on Saturday with our pre-qualifying show at 3:30, and then the all-important qualifying, setting the grid here for the Spanish Grand Prix at 4 p.m. The post-quali show will be straight after. And then Sunday, the pre-race show as ever at 2 p.m. and the Spanish Grand Prix at 3 p.m. Our post-race show immediately after the podium. And we question who will be standing atop the podium here at the Circuit Barcelona-Catalunya. We're going to have to wait and see. My thanks to you, Will Buxton,
A pleasure, my friend.
for an excellent weekend warm-up. My thanks to Esteban Ocon, Neymar, and indeed all of the drivers that we have interviewed today in the pen. Who knows what we may see here at the Spanish Grand Prix? Yes, advantage Red Bull. Yes, Red Bull in the ascendancy. But there are upgrades up and down this paddock. Teams are about to stretch their legs. And we have a new track layout to contend with as well. Join us tomorrow for free practice 1. Thanks for watching. We'll see you then.